Okay, we're in a bit of a weird place at the moment, and I don't just mean Ayrshire where I'm recording. I mean more generally with regards to Celtic as well. It's kind of like the calm before the storm. We know what's going to come over the next few months. In fact, we don't know, and that's kind of the beauty of it. But this week, there are no midweek games. It's the first free midweek Celtic have had since the winter break back at the start of 2022. We've got some decent stuff planned on the channel, if I do say so myself. Plenty of kind of varied content coming over the next few days. But today's video was a little bit of a kind of empty slot, to be honest. And with there not being a great deal of Celtic news over the last 48 hours or so since Livingston, you know, there's been bits about Scott Brown retiring, Neil Lennon getting a job in Cyprus. But in terms of actual current Celtic news, not a great deal. I thought we could kind of change tack, as I always say on the channel when I do these kind of videos, and take a bit of a look at what the future could look like for Celtic under Ange and what the Celtic squad could look like next season. On today's video, we're going to take a look at the contract situation of several key first team players, the players who could potentially leave the club in the summer, and the positions that Ange will likely look to strengthen the squad. And I said look there about 8 million times. Now, breaking news, in case you haven't realised, Celtic are in the midst of a pretty fierce title fight at the moment with Rangers. Now, we have a 3-point advantage at the top of the Premiership. We are, to all intents and purposes, the favourites to win the league. I don't think you'd find anyone really arguing with that at the moment. But that doesn't really mean a great deal. There is still a long way to go. Plenty of twists and turns to come in the Scottish Premiership title race. Obviously winning the league is massive for us as supporters. The prestige, probably this season it means more to us than Rangers because of the way last season went. And this is our year to kind of get our dominance back. And it's obviously going well so far. But in terms of how actually important winning the league and getting that Champions League money is for the future of the two teams, I think it's more vital for Rangers than us. And that might sound a bit of a daft statement, and that's not me playing down the importance of us winning the league. And I'm definitely not going all Hector the tax inspector on you right now. My main point is that Celtic are in a really strong position for the future under Ange. And while winning the league would obviously be massive, I don't think it would spell the end for Ange's team, even if we come up short by a few points this season. I don't know if you can say the same for their team across the city if they were to lose the league. Now, Celtic are in a great position financially. Just last month, we got the interim report for the second half of 2021 that saw revenue up by nearly a third, profit up, and more cash in the bank as well. We have a squad packed full of real talent, most of it very young, with most of our key players likely to stick around for at least one more season. Watch them all leave now. On top of that, we aren't relying on hordes of loan players like we have done in recent years. So in theory, this Celtic squad and this team should be able to kick on next season, regardless of whatever way the title goes this year. As we know, kicking on is exactly what Ange is going to want this team to do and Celtic in general to do. This guy has immensely high standards and he's not going to stop wanting to improve the team and improve the club while he's employed as our manager. And most of it will come back to the strength of the squad. And in terms of next season, the two big questions that have been lingering over us all season are what will happen with Jota and Cameron Carter-Vickers. Both players are wanted permanently by the club. Both of them have been incredibly good this season, and that's kind of why they're wanted by the club. But it's also in a kind of converse way why it might be difficult for us to get both because they've been so impressive. Just yesterday, friend of the channel Larry Henry Jr. reported that an English quartet, that's 4 teams, Leicester City, Wolves, Watford and Bournemouth, were all after CCV, with Spurs wanting at least 6 million for the USA international. Ange recently said that he wouldn't convince either Jota or Carter-Vickers to stay. That's just typical of Ange. He had the same sort of attitude towards Karamoko Dembele as well, and he is the other Celtic player who is effectively out of contract contract in the summer. Dyson Maeda is currently on loan at Celtic from Yokohama F Marinos, but there is a compulsory purchase clause that Celtic will take up in the summer, so he is effectively a permanent Celtic player at the moment. As we know from recent years, when it regards to contracts, you kind of have to look beyond this summer and into next summer as well and look at the players who are out of contract then. And there's quite a few interesting ones in there. Again, it's a quartet. 3 of our longest serving players all up in the summer of 2023. They are James Forrest, Nir Bitton and Tom Rogic, while Christopher Jullien is also on that list as well, and he's a pretty experienced player. Forrest and Bitton will both be 31 by the expiry of their contract next summer, while Rogic and Jullien will both be 30. So you're looking at 4 really experienced players there who Celtic will have to try and tie up on longer contracts over the next, 6 months to a year, to avoid them being able to chat to new clubs. But that's a wee bit down the line. This is potentially what the Celtic squad for pre-season could look like. And in here, I've included the likes of Jota, Carter Vickers and Dembele because, everyone, I'm a really positive guy. And if you don't know that about me yet, you don't know me at all. I've also included some returning loan players of note, the likes of Ross Doohan, Scott Robertson, Liam Shaw as well. There's plenty of players on that list who quite plainly don't have a future with Celtic. Barkas, Bolingoli, Soro, Ayeti, arguably Urhoghide as well, given the nature of his loan move to Belgium. But I've stuck all those players on there. And apologies, it's very cramped down the middle, but I just wanted to get most of our players on there. Now, if we'll just work our way through the positions, and I'll just give my thoughts on where Celtic are set, and if we are indeed set or not. If you look at goalkeeper, I think that's fine. Ironically, the guy that I think Celtic are kind of hanging their hat on to be Joe Hart's successor isn't even on that list because I didn't have room down the middle. Toby Oluwayemi, he could well be the successor to Joe Hart, and I would expect to see him make his debut next season. But in terms of goalkeeper, Joe Hart has obviously been a really impressive signing, arguably our best signing of the season, and he's got plenty of competition. But there's also, Scott Bain there. I know he gets a hard time. I think he's fine as a backup for now. The problem was when Scott Bain was your goalkeeper. But I think we're fine in terms of a keeper. And more importantly, I think the club see Oluwayemi as the future, just based on the things you hear coming out. And I think signing like a Siegrist or a Strycek or any other kind of lower half Scottish Premiership keeper would probably stunt the growth and the opportunities given to Oluwayemi. So I think goalkeeper we're fine. Right back equally, absolutely fine there. Ralston, Juranovic, both really good options, both really good players. Delighted with that. Centre back will obviously depend on Carter Vickers and also how Jullien comes back into it. Don't think we'll see too much of Jullien between now and the end of the season. Could be wrong with that, but I think it's going to be next season for Jullien to really come back into it. As good as Carter Vickers has been, and he has been excellent, I think Jullien and Starfelt would have, the potential to be a good Celtic partnership if we weren't able to sign Carter Vickers. Obviously, then we would have to sign another centre-back because you'd need, 4 centre-backs, Welsh, Starfelt, Jullien and one more. It'd be ideal if Carter Vickers signed, but I say as good as he's been, I think Jullien and Starfelt would potentially be a decent partnership there. Left back is the one people usually pick out. It's probably the major concern. I'm like a broken record here, but I think if we want to keep evolving and keep improving the team, then signing a top left back to rival Greg Taylor is key. Liam Scales is fine, and I think he'll actually play his part both between now and the end of the season and also beyond. But I think if we really want to take the team to the next level, left back is a glaring issue. And if you want a Juranovic on the left-hand side to battle Taylor, I think that could bring the best out of both players, and indeed Liam Scales as well. Centre mid, I think we're a bit light on quality in terms of the kind of deeper lying players, the holding midfielders, McGregor aside, of course. Don't really know much about Gucci yet. Been relatively impressed with what I've seen so far, but it's been a small sample size. Beaton is fine. Does let us down, a few times a season at least though, so worth bearing that in mind. I think Robertson and Shaw could potentially make an impact next season, but maybe it will come a little bit early for them. But I'd be looking for another player who is as comfortable in the ball as Callum McGregor, a McGregor light, if you will. I don't know if there's any obvious ones out there in Scotland or whether we need to look down south, but I think that's something that, I'd definitely be looking at again if we want to go to the next level, and really get the best out of Callum McGregor, maybe be able to rest him more often. I know he's your captain, but it would be good to have someone else in there. I'd definitely be looking to move on Sorrow, potentially James McCarthy as well. It hurts me to say that, but it hasn't really worked out for him this season. But obviously he's got a really lengthy contract, so easier said than done. In front of them, with those four there, I think we're great. 4 really talented players vying for 2 positions. Don't really need to say much more there. Really happy with that. Right wing, big questions over the future of both Karamoko and Ben Doak. But I think we're relatively okay if James Forrest can get back to his best. Forrest Abada, again, it's good that 2 kind of relatively proven players who can both chip in with goals if they're both playing well. Left wing will depend on Jota, obviously. We definitely need to sign someone on that side if he didn't join permanently. But I don't really want to imagine a world where Jota isn't playing for Celtic. So we'll move on if you don't mind. And striker, I think at times this season we've been quite light, but we've not seen Celtic with Maida, Kyogo and Giakoumakis all available at the same time. I think if that happens, which let's face it, it should, maybe in a month's time or so when Kyogo's back, certainly next season, I think we're pretty strong there. And you'd probably be looking for a Yeti to move on at that stage as well. I think this is the strongest squad that Celtic have had in a good while, and that is summed up by the arguments and debates we've been having over the last couple of days about who's going to win Player of the Year. It could genuinely be 6 or 7 players, and that just proves how well-rounded a side Celtic are, and the fact we have real top performers in all areas of the pitch. It's really left back that's the glaring weak point in that squad for me, and I think Ange will realise that too. Obviously, football is never plain sailing. Celtic transfer dealings are never plain sailing. There will no doubt be a curveball thrown somewhere, whether that's a change of heart from a Jota or a Carter Vickers not wanting to sign, or perhaps a huge bid from a team for one of the players that we didn't expect to lose and were forced to accept it and have to replace them at short notice. But I think the main thing is that with regards to transfers and everything else, to be honest, I trust Ange to get it right. He knows what the team needs, and he's now fully in charge of signing what the team needs, unlike previous regimes at the club when players were kind of coming from everywhere, scattergun type approach. So yeah, I think for me the priorities this summer will be to get Carter Vickers and Jota in permanently. Both have been, huge for us this season, and I think signing them permanently would be a massive boost to the club. Signing a proper good left back, a Juranovic for the left hand side, would be great as well, and then to move on some of the deadwood who plainly aren't in Ange's plans. I do wonder, and it's just a thought that's come into my head there, I do wonder if we do win the league and get Champions League group stage football and get all the money that goes with that, whether Ange will really look to use that to massively improve the team. And I know you might think that's a complete given, but, how ruthless would he be? If a top player's out there who Celtic can attract and who Ange thinks will improve the team, I do wonder just how ruthless Ange could be with players in this Celtic squad. I mean, players who we maybe think are great, but Ange thinks, God, I can get an upgrade on that player. So I think that's going to be fascinating. He's proven already that he sometimes signs players in positions that you're not really expected to. You think we're sorted in a position, and Ange will sign a Matt O'Reilly or someone like that. So I think this is very exciting. And as I say, I trust Ange implicitly with this. It's easier said than done to do all of that stuff I said, but we're in a good place. Of course, let me know what you think of what I've said in today's video in the comments below. Really want to get you all involved. Where does Celtic need to strengthen this summer to really take us to the next level? Maybe avoid the obvious shout of left back. Is there another position that you think we're not quite as strong in as maybe some people think? Maybe like one of the positions I thought we were nailed on, like right back or attacking mid, you think we can improve in there. So let us know below. Don't forget to like today's video and subscribe to the channel as well, as we go for 27,000 subs. Plenty more coming in the coming days. We're back tomorrow when I will be at a football match. To find out more, you'll just have to tune in tomorrow.